So a good time or a terrible time to buy a Seattle condo? Some people are saying it's a good time to buy. Others think they have further to fall. So which is it? Seattle condos used to be the easiest way to get your foot in the door of Seattle's pricey real estate market. But with condo prices down, HOA dues up, and developers offering large incentives, it's not as straightforward as it used to be. Hey, I'm Matt Goyer, Seattle and Bellevue area real estate agent, help hundreds of people navigate this decision of whether they should buy, wait, or explore other options. In this video, we're gonna break it all down for you. We're gonna talk about what's working right now, what's not working, and what's gonna make sense for you as you think about buying a condo. So let's get started with where condos sit in Seattle's real estate landscape, because we have a couple different types of housing here and they all perform very differently. And a lot of that is driven by supply and demand. Basically, there's three types. Okay, so for starters, we have single family homes, and they're typically gonna be your best investment. The nice thing about single family homes is they're gonna give you a little more space. You're gonna own the land. You're gonna have a little bit more control of your destiny, especially if you're looking at a 3-bed, 2-bath or larger. Those are the most popular single family homes here in Seattle. And so they have strong resale demand. When it comes time to sell, it's not hard for you to find a buyer. Why do I say that single family homes are likely a better investment than the other types? Well, it really comes down to supply and demand. The supply of single family homes in Seattle is generally only decreasing over time. Developers are buying up old single family homes, and they're tearing them down and replacing them with 2, 3, or more units on that lot. Meanwhile, the demand for single family homes as more people move to the area and as younger people get older and need more space, the demand for them is only increasing over time. So what's the downside of single family homes? Well, it's the price. Not everyone can afford one. The median price of a single family home right now in Seattle is a little over $1 million. And if you're looking at the in-demand neighborhoods like Capitol Hill, you're looking at more like $1.25 million. Or if you're looking at Queen Anne, you'd be looking at $1.5 million. So that's why it's good that we have some other housing types for people who don't have those kind of budgets or who desire a different way to live. Next, we got townhomes. So townhomes generally been built in the last 25 years, so they're gonna be newer. The thing with townhomes is that generally you're gonna share a wall or two with your neighbors. You're probably not gonna have a big yard. Some townhomes are gonna appreciate like single family homes, but that's the exception. For them to appreciate like a single family home, they have to be pretty unique. Maybe they have a larger yard, they have a killer location or killer view that's not gonna go away, or they have a layout that breaks the mold and is much more attractive than the standard typical townhome layout. So what kind of appreciation can you expect with a townhome? Well, it's gonna be much more modest than a single family home, and the reason for that is because the supply of townhomes is only increasing over time. Developers are tearing down those single family homes, they're building a couple townhomes, and so we have a lot more townhomes being built every year in Seattle. And meanwhile, there's good demand for it, but usually the supply is exceeding the demand, and that keeps a lid on prices. And the good news for you as a buyer, it makes them more affordable. When it comes time to sell it though, you might not see as much appreciation as if you had bought one of those single family homes. What do prices look like for a townhome? Well, they can range anything from $600,000 like this townhome we're selling right now in the Central District, up to, $1.2, $1.3 million, like this brand new construction townhome in my neighborhood over in Eastlake. And so the third and final type is condos, and condos are super confusing. And the reason for that is because condo is not a property type. It's really a legal ownership structure. So what does that mean? Well, a condo means you're buying a unit, typically from the interior paint on the walls inward, and then you become a joint or co-owner of the land and the building with your other homeowners. That's all governed by a homeowners association and a bunch of other stuff called the CC&Rs. It's a big mess of stuff. And in Seattle, it's all particularly complicated right now because we have condos that look like what you'd expect a condo to look like. Spire, Greystone, the Emerald, they're high rises, multifamily living. But on the other hand, developers have been building a lot of these 1,000 square foot detached units called DADUs. And those are also condos. And so the waters right now are super muddy. But for the purpose of this video, when I say condo, I'm referring to the ones that look like a Spire or a Greystone, and we're not talking about these new little 1,000 square foot ones that are popping up all over the place in Seattle. Now, what about pricing for condos? Well, pricing for condos peaked in 2018 when supply began to exceed demand for them, and so we saw prices decline in the second half of 2018 and then it continued to decline in 2019. And then we got hit with COVID, work from home, all of that, and condos really went out of favor over the last 5 years. So you can see from this chart, we peaked in 2018 and it's been a long slide downhill since then, which has been super frustrating for people who bought condos earlier, but it means it could be a good buying opportunity for you right now, especially because it feels like the condo market is beginning to turn, specifically with Amazon returning to the office and a lot of other companies following their lead. And so more people, like in the old days, want to be closer to the office again. That's the demand side of the equation. What does supply look like for condos? Well, we have a couple big condos still selling out. We expect they're going to sell out here soon, either this year or next year. And after that, we had no new condos on the horizon in Seattle, so supply is going to dry up. And in the past, that has meant that prices have increased. All right, now that we talked about what condos are and how they compare to the other housing types, we're gonna go through seven things that will help you determine whether a condo is gonna be a right fit for you, but also 7 things that will hopefully give you some insight into what makes a good condo purchase and what makes a bad condo purchase. We're gonna start with location because you know the old saying, location, location, location. But when we talk about location, I think the most important thing is you pick a location or a neighborhood that's gonna be right for you, your lifestyle right now, and your lifestyle as it evolves in the coming years in which you're gonna own this condo. And usually the number one driver for location is gonna be your proximity to work and what your commute looks like. So you wanna test drive that, understand what's working about it, understand what's not working about it, because you're gonna have to do it 5 days a week, unless you're one of those rare few who are still able to work from home. But you should also consider the proximity to all the things you love to do. Is it going out to eat? Is it going to the bar? Is it going to shops? Is it going to the museum? And make sure that those things are close to you if it's something you do frequently. So that said, which neighborhoods tend to be the best investment for condos? Well, what we've seen in the past is that the neighborhoods with the least amount of condo buildings, but yet are still attractive neighborhoods, have fared the best, or they've seen the smallest decline in condo prices over the last 5 to 10 years. So what neighborhoods would that be? I'm thinking about neighborhoods like Westlake, Eastlake, where I live, or over in Fremont. In-demand neighborhoods, but there's not a lot of condo buildings and there's still good demand for them. And compare that to the neighborhoods that have a ton of condo buildings, a glut of condo buildings, like Belltown, Downtown, Capitol Hill. Those neighborhoods have not fared nearly as well because they have a huge supply of condos available right now, but the buyer demand just isn't there. And so condo prices there have really suffered. Bad if you've been an owner over the last 5 to 8 years, but on the flip side, could present a buying opportunity if you're a patient buyer and willing to wait for prices to recover. Now let's talk about whether the condo building is going to be the right fit for you. So there's a wide variety of condo buildings out there. You've got high rises like Spire, First Light, Greystone. And then you've got mid-rise condos. They top out at about 7 stories. They're the most common building that we see on Capitol Hill, Ballard, neighborhoods like that. The first condo I bought was at the Meritage, 7-story wood frame building on Capitol Hill. Then there's a whole group of boutique buildings like the one we're filming in right now, 1310 East Union. It's only 8 units, but it's concrete and steel, just like the high rises downtown. And then you've got all the lofts out there. Well, actually, there's not that many. Trace Lofts is the one I bought in about 20 years ago. So old warehouse converted to condos with a couple stories added on top for more housing. So each of those styles is gonna have a way different feel, and they're also gonna have way different amenities. So my first couple of condos at the Meritage and Trace Lofts basically had no amenities. Meritage had none. Trace Lofts had a nice rooftop deck, but that was it. Contrast that with a building like First Light, where you're getting a pool on the 47th floor, cantilevered out over the city. It's got an amazing gym, view of the Space Needle, Mount Baker. Really nothing compares to the amenities at First Light. So 2 different ends of the spectrum. One might feel more like home, one might feel more like a hotel experience. Really just depends on you and what you're going for. From a price perspective, how those different types of condos perform over time, well, it varies a lot. Hard to break it all down in a short video like this, but let's just say that the more unique buildings, more unique especially for their neighborhood, will perform better over time. So examples would be like Luma on First Hill, right at the edge of Capitol Hill. Capitol Hill doesn't have any high rises, so Luma has really retained its value over time. And compare that to, say, some bland condo building in Belltown where there's a ton of other bland condo buildings. Those ones do not perform nearly as well over time. And the tricky ones are you can't get too unique because then you need a really, really unique buyer who appreciates your crazy funky loft. The third thing we're going to talk about is unit types. We're going to go over what they are, how to pick one, and which ones to stay away from. So the different unit types out there, let's start with studios. They're basically like glorified hotel rooms, but with a kitchen, typically going to be pretty small. A step up from that is going to be what's called an urban one bedroom. It's kind of like a one bedroom, except the bedroom doesn't have a window. They're usually pretty space efficient. And if you like sleeping in the dark, like most people, you're probably not gonna miss the window. And then you've got a typical one bedroom. So the bedroom's gonna have a window in it. And then next up from that, you have the one bedroom with den, or sometimes those are called by the marketing people as an urban two bedroom to try and make it sound better. And then you've got your usual two bedroom, three bedroom, and penthouses. Now, in terms of picking a unit, you really got to think about what's going to be the best unit for you, not just now, but also in the near future. We've seen many people buy a one bedroom condo and quickly outgrow it. And it's really expensive to sell your one bedroom and then go buy a larger two bedroom. But on the other hand, it can also be a mistake to buy more condo than you need, because with a condo, you're paying monthly fees, the HOA dues, and those are based on your square footage. So if you got a really big 2,000 square foot two bedroom, your HOA dues might be like $2,000, $2,500 a month. Whereas if you had gotten a more modest two bedroom, your HOA dues probably would have been more in the $1,200 a month range. Now, from an investment perspective, which are the ones I would stay away from? Well, I would not buy a studio. Just too hard to resell. Most people want to have a spot for their bed, and they don't want their bed in the middle of their kitchen and living room, so avoid studios. Other one I avoid is the larger one bedrooms. So they just cost a lot of money on a monthly basis because you're going to be paying a lot more in HOA dues. If you're buying a really big one bedroom, make sure it's what you want, and you don't care that it's going to be harder to sell and you might not see as much appreciation as if you had bought a two bedroom. And then I'd proceed with caution on the three bedrooms or the penthouses. Obviously, there's way fewer penthouse buyers than there are buyers for a regular size two bedroom or something like that. So that's really going to be more of a lifestyle choice than an investment choice. So which ones do I really gravitate towards? Well, it's your average size one bedroom and it's going to be your average size two bedroom. Kind of boring, but those will perform the best from an investment perspective over time. So the fourth thing we're going to talk about is parking. What's your parking situation and what's the parking situation of the building, and do they match up? Most of the time, you're probably going to need parking. Go down and actually look at the parking spot that comes with the condo that you're considering. Not all parking spots are created equal. Some are really small, some are generously sized, some have a really awkward column next to them, some don't. And obviously now more and more people are getting EVs. So what is the EV story? Does it come with an EV charger? Most won't. So the question then becomes, will a condo let you add an EV charger? So there's many buildings that are maxed out in terms of electrical capacity and you can't add a charger. So that's a really good thing to know up front. From a resale perspective, I'd encourage you, until robo-taxis take over the world, you should get a condo with a parking spot. It'll make it much easier to sell down the line, at least for now and the foreseeable future. Okay, so the fifth thing we got to cover here is HOA dues. So what are HOA dues? Well, HOA stands for the Homeowner Association. It's the collection of people who own in the building. And the HOA dues are going to be a fee that you pay monthly that goes towards the maintenance and operation of the building. In Seattle right now, my rule of thumb would be to budget $1 a square foot a month. This is an expense that a lot of home buyers underestimate until they fall in love with a condo. So make sure when you just start your browsing experience, you're looking at not just the price of the condo, but you're also considering how much the HOA dues are. And make sure you consider that HOA dues tend to only go up over time. While we're seeing HOA dues around $1 right now, we're seeing many buildings trending towards, in the next year, 2 or 3, $1.25 a square foot. So it's a real expense. But keep in mind that this is going towards running your building, goes towards saving money for a rainy day and making sure that your building can replace its roof or whatnot down the line. So that leads us to our sixth point, really understanding the health of the Homeowners Association. And there's two things here you want want to dig into. The first is the financial health of the homeowners association. Are they saving enough money for a rainy day? All these buildings are really complex and they have complex systems that are really expensive to maintain and replace. So you want to make sure the homeowners association is saving enough money to take care of those systems and replace them in the future. And that's where hiring a real estate agent like myself who really understands condos is invaluable, because they can help you stay away from the buildings who are not doing a good job of planning for the future. So the seventh thing you want to consider when you're evaluating a condo is going to be the rental restrictions. Like, first off, you should ask yourself, will I want to rent my condo out in the future? And if the answer is yes, will this building let me do that? You know, for myself, that ended up being an important thing. Both the condos I owned, I ended up renting out for a number of years before selling them when the condo market was doing well. So it was really good that I had condo buildings that allowed rentals. But on the other hand, there's some buildings that just are like way too loosey-goosey with their rental regulations, and they can be a huge mistake. So there's about 10, 15 condo buildings in the city that allow Airbnb, and I would never let a friend buy in one of those buildings. You don't want to be trying to enjoy a nice, peaceful night in your expensive condo while there's a bachelor party going on next door because your building allows Airbnb. But at the other extreme, you have some buildings that are really restrictive in terms of rentals, and they allow only a handful of rentals, which might be really enjoyable for you as an owner occupant. But those buildings tend to be harder to sell down the line because there's a lot of buyers who want rental flexibility. My advice is to find a building that has moderate rental regulation that lets you rent if you want to, but also doesn't allow 1,000 rentals in the building and doesn't allow Airbnb. So those are 7 things I'd really consider if I was looking to buy a condo in Seattle right now, because buying a condo in Seattle right now is not as straightforward as it used to be. There's a lot to navigate. You can't just fall in love with the pretty pictures online. You really have to think about whether it's going to be a good fit for you and whether it's going to be a good fit for your financial picture down the line when it comes time to sell. So that's where I come in, and that's where I can help add value. I've helped hundreds of people evaluate condo buildings, thinking about the location, the unit type, the HOA financials, and really making sure it's going to be a good fit for them and not just pick something that looks good online. If you're serious about buying a condo in Seattle or Bellevue, let's talk. My contact info is below. Feel free to reach out. No matter where you are in the process, whether you're just thinking about buying a condo or you're already pre-approved and trying to decide between a couple buildings, I am happy to help.